It's stuck at 31. You want to start then?
Yeah, Tom, why don't we get started? And as more people join, that's fine.
Okay, and you got that, right? You're watching the waiting room.
Yes.
All right. Welcome, aloha, and thank you all for attending the Hilo Orchid Society Zoom meeting. It had been requested by several people that we do a culture session, and most especially on how to repot your plants. And so we thought, what better place to do this than the astoundingly beautiful nursery known as Shogun Hawaii, which is Matthias Seelis's farm. He's one of my best friends, and I'm always happy to come over and see what blooming things that he has here. And as you can see today, he made, just to show you how nice his culture is, he made this beautiful wall of spectacular, mostly petunias, but there's a lot of other things here as well. So when we get to show and tell in a little while, we'll discuss these, and you know, we'll have, we brought a selection of all kinds of different plants, so we can have like we can discuss many different kinds of repotting, basketing, putting stuff on mounts, all of that. And Matthias is really, really good at this, obviously, better than me. So I think everyone's going to get a lot out of this presentation. But the society does have a few items that we need to talk about before we get into all of the fun and games with the repotting. And number one on our list is the fact that the end of the year is approaching, and the end of the terms for myself, for example, but some of the other officers and also several board members are going to lapse. So if you got your newsletter from Larry, you have seen the slate of nominees, and we just want to make sure that that everyone is okay with that, and also to see if there are any other nominations from the floor. If anyone else would like to be an officer or a board member that's listening today, or we invite those nominations today as well. But for now, Larry, if you can, we'd like you to put up the slate of nominees. Larry will share his screen, and everyone will be able to see the names of the people that are up for the various officers and board members. So I think it's a really good array of people from different walks of life and different nationalities. There's commercial growers as well as hobbyists and other experts, and I think it's a really, really good slate. So with that, I'd like to just ask if there are not any other nominations from the floor. If there are, just I guess unmute yourself, or click on the hand raise thing, or write something in the chat box. Hopefully Larry and Dana are monitoring those things. And if after 10 seconds we don't have any additional nominations, we'll go ahead and vote on the slate that we've just presented. Anything, Larry? Anything, Dana? Okay, it seems like
sorry, did you call my name, Tom?
I did. Just you're a co-host, and I just wanted to know if there had been any nominations from the floor. I can't really see it from my vantage
Have
point.
it. I'll take a look. I haven't seen that yet, though. I will look in chat.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, honey.
Yeah, so Tom, this is Larry. So I don't see anyone who has raised hand or whatever for another nomination.
Okay, so our members, we want to get you more involved, but I can understand you. They say when it comes to officers in orchid societies, you can't ever quit because slaves have to be sold. So in any case, that my poor attempt at humor, where it looks like we're going to vote on the slate that was just presented. So let's say everyone, let's just see if there are any objections. If there are no objections, then that means that the slate is carried as is. So Larry and Dana will check that, see if there are any objections to our slate.
Right. So if anyone is voting against the slate, please raise your hand.
Correct.
That it?
Please raise your hand so that we can excommunicate you. I'm kidding, of course.
Also, if you don't have your face showing, we can't see if you're raising your hand or not. So can you show us your face?
Click on the video camera.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that there's nothing there. Just
Well, sometimes you just have a bad hair day and you don't want to be seen.
well then they can unmute themselves and say, I have no objections, but they're not doing that. Does anybody? Okay.
I have no objections. Kathy has no objections.
All right. Does anybody have any
You
objections?
might have to tell people how to use the ... to see the little places at the bottom where you can raise your hand and that kind of thing.
Well, they don't actually have to raise their hand. I mean, I think Larry is saying physically raise your hand.
Okay.
Or else do it with the little hand.
I sent you a message in the chat, no objections.
There is a reaction button right in the bottom where you can put a thumbs up.
So Reed has his hand up there.
Just as long as there are no negative reactions, then we're good.
So Reed, are you objecting to the slate? And Angelica, are you objecting to the slate?
I said no objections and I raised my hand.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How about Reed?
Okay, no objections. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to accept the slate as presented by acclamation since there's nobody running against anybody. So I make the motion to accept the slate as presented.
And who is that?
I'm sorry, this is Kathy from Kona.
Okay, Kathy.
Kathy.
Kathy Gallagher?
No, Penwell?
Penwell.
Oh, Kathy.
Yeah, Kathy.
Kathy. Kathy. Then I will second it. I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of the slate?
Aye.
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 Woo!
Aye.
Yay!
Okay.
Aye.
It sounds like there's my weird animal in my phone.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And there were no objections, so the slate is carried. Fantastic.
Congratulations to all you people, especially to our new president-elect.
Yes, indeed.
Great. And folks,
You're muted.
So
could people please
we're
mute
still not
yourselves
exactly
again if you're not speaking?
okay. We're still not exactly sure how next month is going to work. Normally, we install our officers at our holiday party. And since we're not having one this year, We're going to have a mini ceremony actually at my house and Charles's house for the board members. I think we have a limit of 25 people that can be there, but we should be underneath that. What I would like to announce though is that we want our December meeting to be a really festive meeting. So we're going to play the Jeopardy game again. I think everyone enjoyed that very much. We'll be installing our new officers, and I would like to encourage everyone to have their favorite holiday treat handy so that we can enjoy it together, even though we're going to be separated and in Zoom land. We can be in Zoom land together. It's better than nothing, and should be a really nice meeting all in all. And of course, bring your plants for show and tell, because that's the best Christmas present of all. So at this point, I'd like to call on Larry to talk about a couple of things that are of importance to all of us. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, thanks, Tom. So I just want to let everyone know, so these are two things that were mentioned in the latest newsletter. So the first thing is to let you know what's going on with our orchid photo contest. And so a panel of judges has narrowed down the photos to the finalists. We have 11 finalist photos. We're not going to vote on them here at this meeting because we want to give all of our members, whether they're on this Zoom call or not, a chance to vote. And so I will be sending out an email to all of our members with a link to the photos of the 11 finalists, and then we're going to ask you to vote for your favorite. But as a sneak peek, I'm going to show you the 11 finalists now. So let me share my screen. Okay. So can everyone see that? So there are, I'm just going to quickly go through the 11 photos of the finalists. So this first one is Epidendrum polybulbon. Second one is Barcaria spectabilis. Cattleya purpurata, formerly Laelia purpurata. This is a Cattleya tenebrosa vinicolor hybrid. Elsie Mary Ellen Carter, Dixie hummingbird growing on Hapu'u. A bulbophyllum hybrid that I don't have the name for. Bulbophyllum longicipulum. Area ornata. An epidendrum, which is a cross of several things that I won't read the long name, but a beautiful epidendrum. RLC Toshi Aoki, Pizzazz, and then finally another beautiful epidendrum. So that's just a little preview of the finalists in the orchid photo contest. And again, I will be sending you all an email with a link to those photos and then asking you to vote for your favorite. Now, the second thing that I want to tell you about is our Orchid Isle calendar. So like every year, we are producing an Orchid Isle calendar that has beautiful photos in it of orchids that were grown and photographed right here on the Orchid Isle. And we're going to handle it like last year because, again, we're not having in-person meetings for you to buy the calendars at. So like last year, I'm going to send everyone out an email and ask you how many calendars you want to order. And then based on how many calendars everyone has ordered, I'm going to get the calendars printed up and they should be ready and delivered by early December. in time for you to be able to send them out as holiday gifts. If you want to, they make really nice holiday gifts. So be looking for those 2 emails, one of them on the photo contest and the other on the calendars. Back to you, Tom.
Fantastic. I have 2 other things I want to talk about before we get going on the demos. Number 1 is that I hope all of you are aware of the incredible sale that is going to be happening tomorrow at Long Life Orchids Nursery, which probably a lot of you might not even know this nursery exists, but it's going out of business, and there's a whole bunch of plants there that are going to be sold off at bargain prices. We want to move as many as we can. Kevin from Kalapana is more or less coordinating all of this, but a lot of us are going to be there to answer questions. It runs from 8 o'clock till 2 p.m. tomorrow. And there should be, you should have received a link to the flyer. And also, we also talk about it in the newsletter. We would love to see you there from 8 to 2 p.m. This is just outside of Hilo in the Kaiviki area, and you should be able to find it pretty easily on MapQuest. It's I believe one of Kevin's sons is going to be outside directing people into the nursery. There's limited parking there, so we just want to make sure that everybody knows about it and can come out. It's going to be a great opportunity to get some incredible bargains on beautiful, kind of overgrown but spectacular Cattleya plants, and lots of Paphiopedilums are going to be there, and some other odds and ends. So I think if you're looking for orchids for your trees, this is definitely come for that. You will not be disappointed, and we just love to see you all there. So we'll all be there. Matthias, Charles, myself. Just come on down and enjoy. Bring your checkbook. So there's that. Oh, I also wanted to mention, so that beautiful orchid on the tree that you saw from the photo contest, that's Dixie hummingbird. There's a ton of those, and hybrids that are made with Dixie hummingbird. So beautiful, colorful, overgrown Cattleyas for your trees that do really, really well in the Hilo area. The other thing I wanted to announce was that the board decided to award our annual conservation award to the group from Illinois College that does, they spoke to us at the society. They do work specifically with native Hawaiian orchids. They come here to do it, but it's Dr. Larry Zettler and his graduate students that do the work. I've just found out recently about populations of Liparis and Anectochilus that are here on the Big Island that are in Volcanoes National Park. And so I've connected the Orchid Recovery Program in Illinois with the Volcanoes National Park people, and hopefully they'll be coming here in the future to do their research and collaborate with the National Park Service here on our native Big Island orchids. So the board felt that that was the best use of our $1,000 conservation award, was to support that relationship and that upcoming research. So I think that's a great thing for us to do, to support our very, very rare native orchids here on the Big Island. So with that, I think we can move along to our potting demos. And again, we've brought a whole bunch of interesting things to show you. And I would like to actually have Matthias come and get us rolling. He's going to show us what to do with Cattleyas and Vandas, and maybe a couple other things.
Larry, can you make our screen a little bit bigger and not the participants. We are kind of, I don't know if you can do that, Larry or Dana.
I think you have to do it.
So it depends on the view that you're looking at and that other people are looking at.
Okay.
So the view that I'm looking at, you occupy most of the screen, and then I just have the participants on the side. So I think it's okay, Matthias.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. Aloha November. The times of the dark times have come until mid-December. Great time to repot your orchids because they're not actively growing. So I have a little demonstration for you today, and I hope you're going to learn something. You are here at the Shogun Hawaii, my farm, and I try to keep everything as clean as possible, and that requires each time I work with my plants to put gloves on, because there is such a thing as a virus in plants, and it can be distributed very easily when you start cutting and repotting. You want to protect my plants, and you don't necessarily have to do that if you only have a few plants, but if you're worried about them, please be very aware that there is a virus.
Could we ask the speaker to speak up louder?
They need you to speak up.
More? Okay. Okay, I will speak louder. Thank you for telling me. So there is a virus in plants, and in order to make sure that it doesn't affect every single plant, you have to work really clean. The number one thing you should consider: buy yourself a box of disposable gloves and wear them each time you handle your plants.
And change them in between plants even.
Very important, very important. The second thing is all your tools you're going to use. You got to have them super clean. So go to a Home Depot, invest in a beautiful torch, and disinfect your clippers by burning them. So they should eventually turn a little bit pinkish red. Everything that's on the blades is going to be killed by the heat, of course. So then you have a clean clipper, and prepare a few of them before you start repotting. Line them up so that when you do 3-4 plants at a time, that you have time to work with them and don't have to interrupt your repotting and clean them. All right, so most important thing. Okay, so we're going to start.
Tell them about the newspaper.
Oh, of course. Thank you for reminding me. As this table in particular here is where I do most of my work. Lots of plants come through here. I also pack here and ship the plants out. I have tested pretty much every plant in my nursery, but that doesn't mean 100% that there might be still one plant in there that may have a virus. So to protect everything, we put even newspaper down on the table because we don't know what has been on the table before. So each time you set a plant on the table, put your newspaper down, and when you finish with that plant, just throw that piece of newspaper away with the exit bark or the old planting material, and then you start fresh to avoid contamination. Really, really important if you want to have clean, beautiful flowering plants, especially with Cattleyas, with the big, beautiful thin petals, so to say. So if you have a virus plant, it's going to have a lot of streaks on them. It's going to cut down on your longevity. So instead of having these beautiful flowers for 4 weeks, you may going to have them only for 10 days if they're virus. So you want to make sure that everything you use is clean and sterile. All right. Okay. Moving on. Exhibit 1. This is a typical Cattleya that you can buy anywhere online or even here on the island. Most people have them in the 4-inch pot. So it's not necessarily exactly 4 inches. It's usually 3.5 or 3 3/4 inches, as you can see. Most of the pots are square pots, but there are also round ones. So they come in all different kinds of shapes and sizes. This is, for example, a netting pot which allows the roots to come through the holes. So this is more for species who like really airy mix, and they want to be more free. Because as you know, all orchids are epiphytes. They grow originally on trees. And it would be hard for us to just hand you a plant with no pot. You wouldn't know what to do with them. So the community decided to put them actually in plastic pots. It's really not that good for them, but we got to do something. And that's the solution. So we want to show you how to repot them. This one would be kind of ready to uppot. As you can see, some of the roots come out at the bottom. So that's pretty much a good sign that the pot is probably getting a little bit too tight. So it would be time to repot. Before I do this, a few words that will help you deciding when to do that. So my slogan is kind of like, you gotta listen to the plant and learn from it, and then you decide what to do with it, and then you can pot them. There is no set time for certain plants to when you have to repot them. Usually, my opinion is, out of experience, it's better that here in Hawaii in the winter months, because if you do it in the summer, when all the plants are really actively growing, you're gonna disrupt the growing cycle. So the more we're gonna go to the winter, when the days are shorter, so now we still have like 6 weeks left until the shortest day of the year, that will help the plant to recuperate better, because shorter days, which means it doesn't grow as actively and it doesn't lose as much water to the repotting. If you do it in the summer, more water will come out of the leaf and dehydrate it, and chances are the plant might die. So do it more in the winter month. That's just like a small guideline. But the listen and learn is basically listen to your plant, what it's telling you. You can see roots are coming out. It's telling you, I'm ready for the next pot. Bigger size, please. Repot me. Did you hear that? That's exactly right. All right. After the plant told me to repot,
My feet are, it's too tight. My shoes are too tight.
so you gently rock the plant left and right, and then pull the plant out. As you see, there's a lot of loose material, and I throw it on the newspaper. Actually looks still pretty good, but there's some old roots in there. I'm going to come a little bit closer to the camera. You can see the condition of the roots is actually pretty good, and you can tell by the color of the roots. They're nice and white and green tips, which means it's still actively growing. The media is still pretty good. You see there's not a lot of powdery stuff in there. The chunks are still good size, so they haven't deteriorated. So it's a good time to actually repot, because if there would be a lot of dust and deterioration from the media, then you're most likely already a little bit too late, which sets back the plants a little bit. So this is a good time to do that. So you lay it on your, get it ready, lay it on your newspaper and choose a pot. I think for this size Cattleya, which has now 4 bulbs and 1 new growth, a 5-inch pot would be adequate. 5-inch pot looks like this. There's good big drainage holes. So what I usually do at the bottom, I fill it in with packing peanuts that you can buy at any of the, well, you can buy it at Ace Hardware probably. You can buy it at any of the packing places, like the rental storage places. They have big bags of that.
You can get it at Office Depot.
Yeah, Office Depot, that's exactly right. So these are really good. They don't deteriorate, and they're really light. So put a bunch of them into the bottom of the pot. It's gonna look like that. It's about, I would say 1/5 of the container at the bottom should have the peanuts in there. And this is basically for drainage. So when the plant grows into the pot and you don't have the peanuts in there, then you have the media at the very bottom with all the roots, and it becomes mass. And eventually, when you water it, the water will sit right there at the bottom, and it stays there and stays really wet. The roots will start to deteriorate and die, and that can have a major impact on the health of your plant. So you don't want that to happen. So these peanuts basically prevent the water of accumulating at the bottom and killing your roots. So it's a really good thing to do and pretty much essential. Okay, I just pulled out this plant here. I usually like to take all the old media off, because we don't know. I mean, I personally don't know. I have probably over 50,000 plants here, so I don't know from every single plant when I repotted it. So you want to gently.
The pH can change on the spark and poison your plant if you leave it on too long.
That is correct. And if you are keeping up with your fertilizing, the pH can change even more rapidly that way. So recommended is every 2 to 3 years, definitely, to repot your plants if you want to keep them healthy and want to grow a nice big specimen plant. Gently try to remove all the old media. Make sure that you don't break too many of the roots. And then if you have some foliage like this one here, this was obviously the beginning of the plant. You know, this is a Mary clone, so this came out of the glass. This is the very beginning of the plant. So it has really not much use anymore, so you can pretty much take that off. Start it. I think I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And then I'm going to take the clipper. As you can see, when I rip it off, it leaves a pretty big wound. You don't really want to have a wound like this because this is an entryway for bacteria and fungus to enter the plant, and virus, of course. So you don't want that to happen. So give this a nice clean cut like this. And because you have sterilized it with the flame, it's also, the heat will slowly close the wound also. So now when you look at it, you have a nice 4-leaf plant. This was the oldest one, and then the next two and the newest one. So always plant the oldest ones in the corner, the back of the pot, and give the new growth, this one here, that's the biggest one, give this room in the pot to expand, because this is where it will grow. It will not keep growing from the back. It will only grow from right here. And you see the beautiful new root that comes right there. This is what you need to have good success. I still usually cut a little bit. Actually, let me show you this. Old one. There's a couple of roots that don't look as good, so I like to clip those off, because any dead material can be infected, and then you will have disease coming in there.
Can cause rot later on.
Exactly. So try to keep it as clean as possible. It looks pretty good. And if you want to have a really good looking plant on top of repotting it, especially with cattleyas, you can pull off the protective sheath, make it nice and green. And it will also help you if something goes wrong with the plant. Usually the buds like to hide underneath. So once you remove all the dead tissue, basically it's easier for you to see if the plant has an infestation or not.
I've also found that if you remove that sheathing very delicately, that oftentimes you will see new growths underneath them. And generally the plants will only produce one new growth like that when this sheathing is present. Only one growth will emerge. But if you remove it, again, very gently, often you'll get branching. So this is one way to encourage more than one growth to come out of your newest growth.
So just a little side note, of course, as Tom was just touching it, he didn't have his gloves on.
Oops.
And he touched the plant with the naked hands. So you definitely want to avoid that if you have a big collection.
In other words, don't ever ask me to come and help you repot.
I know otherwise somebody will say it, so I'm doing it myself.
It's the truth.
I use a lot of the orchiada bark. It lasts pretty long. It has nice big pieces, and cattleyas like good airflow and good drainage. So the bigger the pieces, the better the drainage, the better the airflow. Meaning, as I mentioned before, these are epiphytes. They grow originally on trees, so they want to have a lot of air around their roots. So if you have smaller pieces of bark, less air movement inside the pot, maybe not so good for your cattleyas. And you see how big the roots are. They want to have room to grow. If it's too dense, not so good. And the second thing is, each time you water, you're actually not only watering your plants, you're pushing the old air out of the pot and new air will come in. So the bigger the air spaces are, the more fresh air you're bringing through the watering to your plant. So that's a really important point. All right, we're ready to plant. All right, let's do it. So you center your cattleya into the pot with the back side towards the wall of the pot. And you see the new growth right in the center. Works out great for the 5-inch pot. You take your media, you drop it in gently, hold the plant, try to fill it up. Mix a few scoops of media, and then gently press down. This is not like when you have a croton in your garden, or you want to repot a croton from your from one pot to the other, and you really press down and make sure it's settled in your pot. You don't want to do that with the very sensitive roots of your cattleya. So you want to do this always very gently. And as you can see, it's standing up already by itself. It likes the new pot. Look at that. It doesn't even fight. You fill it up. Put a little bit in the back.
Do you leave a lip, or do you put the media all the way to the top?
Well, you know, you should have a little bit of room at the rim of the pot. I water by hand with a hose, which is a kind of a brutal way, so to say, for the bark when you repot them. So I usually kick some out in the first months when it's repotted. So for me, this is a good level. So as you can see, it stands by itself nicely in the pot. There's plenty of room right here for the new growth to grow into. So you probably can leave this plant in this pot for at least a couple of years. So this one will mature in the next, I would say in the next 6 weeks, it's going to be mature, and then the sheet will turn brown, and then it's going to sit there for a little bit, and then it will make, by that time, we're in January, and that will initiate definitely new growth because days are going to get longer, warmer, more light, and it will make more growth. And then it's going to get bigger, and I would say by the end of next year, it has a beautiful flower. And the last thing, don't forget your tag. Don't forget your tag. Really important. If you don't have a name of it, the value of the plant is 0. If you have a tag, it's the name, it's valuable. All right, put it in the back.
It's also really important when you're potting plants like this to make sure that they're really immobile in the pot, that they're not wobbling, they don't come out of the pot easily. So sometimes that means that you force the medium in a little bit, so that I often used to actually try to pick up the plant to make sure that it was not going to wobble and that it was very firmly in there. Sometimes with very new plants, you don't want to do that, but they will not root well unless they're really, really stable in the pot. So that's your goal.
All right. So we're done with this baby, and I think it looks happy.
It does.
Last thing we have to do
I'm so happy.
Last thing we have to do, get rid of all the rubbish. Make sure you keep it all on the sheet of newspaper that you use. Wrap it up. And there you go. Mic drop.
Tick, tick,
We're
boom.
done with this one. And nice new newspaper right here. And now we're going to do. So I selected one of my 6-inch pots. So this is a cattleya that is about, I think it's going on 4, if not 5 years now. Again,
Out of flask.
out of, that's probably longer. Out of flask is probably 6 years. I sometimes do really big tags because I'm an old guy and I don't want to try to figure out what the name is. So I buy these big tags and write it big so I can instantly see what it is. I love those big tags. A lot of people think it's a waste of money. I love these tags, but personal opinions.
So this is one of his very famous clones of Princess of Hawaii. You can see 2 of them behind him right now, these archshade cattleyas. So all what he has now are all different seedlings of Princess of Hawaii that are, every one of them is magnificent. And one day we'll get an award of quality from the AOS.
Well, thank you, Tom. That was very kind.
So Tom and Matthias, we have a question that came in on the chat. Can you put the old bark into your compost? In other words, can you use the old bark in a compost pile?
most definitely. I usually, with the newspaper and everything, once my bin here is halfway full, I have a whole area there where I just dump it, and after 1 year of decomposing, I use it in my garden. I mean, it makes great compost. I mean, it's organic material. There's nothing wrong with using it in your garden. Great point.
Just keep in mind though that you can never use it again for orchids, because or you know, maybe a terrestrial orchid or something might, because there's very likely diseases, rot, and possibly even virus on that stuff. But you can certainly use it in your garden for mulch.
You just want to prepare for the next plant. I just wanted to make the next tool ready for this plant. And I also want to mention, you know, this is the second plant I'm handling. I know I have gloves on, and I touched the roots and all the bare parts of the plant. So if the plant, hopefully not, but if the plant has a virus, it might be on my gloves. So I don't want to waste the gloves. So go to Walmart, buy this alcohol, and just squirt it on your gloves, rub it on your hands.
We're all used to hand sanitizer now, so.
So this is really, as Tom said, you know, this is one of my favorite process I have made, and I love every single one. Really, every single one is one of a kind and different. So I don't want to chance it to get a virus on that of them. So I want to be super careful in making sure that I'm not doing anything wrong. So step one was, again, disinfecting even my gloves. It sounds a little over the top, but if you have really valuable plants, or not even in terms of monetary value, just that you really like, you want to make sure that you're tedious with your procedures. It really comes in handy in the long run. Okay, so this plant is a little bit older, so I would say probably out of last 6 years. See, this is here the beginning, the older parts, and then at the other end, it has branched already into 2 beautiful leaves. So you see, this is called lead because it's leading the way to the new growth, basically. There's the second one. They have just recently bloomed, and they're already making another new growth here. And beautiful new roots are coming out there. As you can see, I had removed prior to this repotting already. So that must have happened the last time I repotted. Took all the old sheet off so I can clearly see plant is in good health. They're very plumb. This is actually a storage container for the Cattleya. So in nature, when they sit on the trees, there are going to be weeks where it doesn't rain. And so the plant has to survive somehow. And so that's what the Cattleyas did. They made this thickness here on the stalk. And that is called a pseudobulb, and it stores all the energy and water in here. So if you would not water the plant for 4 weeks, it would slowly shrivel up, which is also a sign when you have Cattleyas and you have shriveled up bulbs. Something is not right with your plants. Either the roots have died, too much water given, or not enough. Anyways, we're here to repot. So first thing I notice, I still have the old flower sheets on there. See right here, I had staked them, and this is the old flower sheet. And there's the other one, and another one here that does not make a flower. So I wanna cut that off because it's not very pretty, and prevention for hiding bugs, of course. So go close to the leaf and cut that off. Go, the last one. Remove that leaf here. Off. Stake. Take the old stake off here also, because it's a little bit dangerous when you handle the plant and the metal stick is sticking up and wants to poke out your eye. So please remove all that, the old stakes. There you go. And I still see a little bit of old sheet on them, which I will remove. This one is not very pretty. It comes off fairly easy, actually, as you can see. Oh, so now we have a pretty clean plant. the last thing I want to do, as you can see, something happened here to the leaf, not very pretty. So to prevent any further spread, we want to make a clean cut into the green part. So cut it off like this, discard it. Now your plant looks pretty good. See all the sheet have been removed. So this would be ready for repotting. My scissors right here, there's my tags, my newspaper. I'm ready to take it out of the pot. So the bigger they are, of course, the more roots, the harder it is to take it out of the pot. So again, you grab it in the center, just gently hold the pot, rock it left and right, and it's coming out good. Look at all those beautiful roots. See all those
Nice.
nice roots all around. You can actually see right here,
Great.
right there, the new growing tips of the root. Really beautiful. And what I want, I'm sure I'm breaking this, but Tom can point this out. This one I have used really big pieces of bark already, but if you look closer to the big dark bark there, you see the gray matter on it, and Tom will explain that. This is actually from the water. It has started to grow mold on it.
Yeah,
because that piece of bark did not get a lot of airflow, obviously, because it was at the wall of the plastic closer to the wall of the pot.
So this is what happens when bark starts to break down. And so you want to just you don't want, I don't know if you ever keep an orchid in a pot for like 5 years and then you try to get it out, you'll find that, and particularly if you've kept the plant really wet during that time, the bark is almost like turned to mush, to almost like soil. And as we know, for epiphytic plants, soil is really, really bad to plant them in. So these have not, decayed that much yet, but they're on their way. And so that's one of the reasons why Matthias is very meticulous about getting the old bark out of the plants, because it's not there. It might be good for another year, but it also is going to go bad pretty quickly compared to the brand new bark that you're going to use.
Yeah, this part is what I don't like, that it has already the decay on it. And that's, if you keep it on too long, what basically is happening, this piece is going to stay wet, more wet than the other pieces in the pot. And so the roots would not go there, because if it's too wet all the time, you have no root growth there. And eventually the wetness will spread closer to all the other pieces close to it, and it will destroy your media and eventually your plant.
Really, if your roots stay too wet, your plant will die.
Yep.
Roots need to literally dry out every day on
exactly
these orchids. And if they're kept constantly wet, they'll just disintegrate.
So that is obviously a big issue with your watering. So if you are liking to water, you should definitely choose a media that is more porous, where the water can run through and it dries out really fast. If you're more a person who doesn't like to water, who thinks, I water every 2 weeks or something, then you need a oops, excuse me. And then you need a mix that is much more dense, which will hold the water longer. But preferably for all the plants, the more porous the mix, the better for your roots. All right, so again, we gently have to remove the media. Step one comes off pretty good. Such beautiful roots on that stuff. The peanuts. The roots have grown pretty much around the peanuts, so they are kind of broken and you don't want to reuse them. But they can also go in your compost. It doesn't hurt. So the big pieces, of course, comes out fairly easy. You will break some of the roots. As you can see, I just ripped a whole bunch of the roots off. It's not a death sentence for the plants. That's when you repot, you want to injure your roots. That's just part of the game. So don't feel like you're hurting the plant.
The most important roots are the ones that are just underneath the newest growths. Those other roots, while they might still be viable, are just not, you don't really need to maintain them. So if some of those break when you're repotting, not a problem at all. Sometimes they can be helpful wedging your plant in the new pot to have some of those older roots, but really most of those roots that are coming off the back bulbs, you don't really need them at all. You just want those newest roots.
I'm still cleaning the old bark off. It comes out really easy. This one is hanging on for dear life. And you know what? I'm just going to keep that on because it looks like it's really thick still. So I will reuse that one. So you can literally make your decisions as you go along. It's not like you have to take everything off. If the bark, these bigger pieces especially, but reuse it. But I would not use more than 10% from the old media. Definitely not more. Because it's going to be in there for another couple of years. So you got to make sure that it's not. So I'm still cleaning off, just a little bit left. If it comes to this point and you can't get any more off with your hands, you can also use your scissor and stab the plant. I know Halloween is over, but you can still do it now. Just slightly. I always wanted to use that on Tom. I don't know why, but let's not go there. We'll do it on this plant. Well, as you can see, the bark is falling off really nicely. And now Tom is so quiet.
It's a good thing I don't live here.
Woo! Spreading the love. Well, this looks pretty good. What do you think, Thomas?
I think it's ready. Well, I'm dying to see what you're going to do with it.
Well, I think if you look at the very bottom here, these roots
Roots are a little broken up and raggedy.
raggedy looking, exactly. So you want to give it a little haircut. You see how the roots are all broken here, they're just hanging there. You don't want to put that in the new pot. So you're gonna
It'll
cut
just
these.
it'll just rot.
Yeah, you're gonna cut this off. And the bigger the plant is when you're repotting, the more roots it has, the more roots are going to get broken. So even the nice ones that are intact, because of the rough handling, from ripping it out of the pot and going in the new pot with the bigger bark, you're going to injure them and break them. So I usually like to cut a whole bunch of them to the same length, almost, just like that, compared to how it was. Still a lot of new material on the roots there that is viable. This side still looks a little bit dark, so I want to take this part off. You can also make the decision, depending on the new size that you're choosing, if you want to keep any of these back bolts or if you want to make a back bolt division, which means you're cutting off 3 or 4 bolts here at the end and put this in a smaller pot, then you would have 2 plants. In this case, because it's a special plant, I don't really want to do that right now. I want it to get bigger so that the size of the flower will really become mature. And then once it has 3, 4 leaves, then I will make divisions. So I'm going to leave that there. But nevertheless, this growth here doesn't have really much roots on them. So I just gave this one cut. You see the rhizome there, the cut I made. I'm going to take that away. This one is. So you see there's 2 that are leafless. We call that leafless. It's still a bulb, but it doesn't have a foliage on it. I would keep them on there. They're nice and plump because they are still a very, very good storage container. So especially when you repot, this comes in handy because it will give nutrients to the plant, and the more nutrients it has right now, the better the new growth of the new roots. So this, you want to keep that. If it looks this nice, if it's all shriveled up and deformed, then you can cut it off. But if it's nice and plump, as both of these are, you definitely want to keep them. And you see how this beautiful new growth is coming along. Hopefully it's not going to get disturbed too much. Preferably when the new growth is like this, this is usually your best time to repot your companies. You don't want to go let it grow too far like this one. But this one's ready to repot, and it has 2 ends. All right. Questions, everybody? Are we good? Then I'm going to choose the new pot. And use. I made a few pots myself. So this is a actually a bulb pan. This is for amaryllis or crinum, you know, for kind of bulbs that bloom in the winter, or you can put narcissus in there. I don't know, any kind of bulbs. So I went and modified the pot a little bit and put more holes in there. So you can't buy it like this. I made it like that for myself because the Cattleya's do like drainage. Normally you only get, it's not the same size, but this is how they normally come. So for the smaller one, probably possible, but the bigger the pot gets, you need a lot of drainage. So these holes really help with aerating the roots. So you can play around, buy these pots and modify them.
So he does that with a soldering gun, and plastic luckily responds really well to that. And so you know, I like to grow most of my orchids in baskets, and so this is the kind of air that that epiphytic roots really need. So yeah, this is what I normally grow in, are these kinds of baskets, which, by the way, they are this type here is available at Grow Your Own, the hydroponic store in Hilo. You can get like 4 or 5 different sizes. These other pots you have to special order, but net pots are really, really good for epiphytic plants.
Yeah, for Cattleya's, these net pots, they come to a certain size and then they don't make them anymore. So, but for most, for the regular size orchids, those sizes will come in handy. Anyways, this is the pot I'm going to choose. I think that's the right size. There's our packing peanuts. We want to fill this up nicely. I like to do it about just like that. It's somewhat like a layer and a half of the peanuts to 2 layers. It's a nice.
It's kind of up to the level of his drainage holes.
Yeah. So you're right now you have about 4 inches maybe of where you can have bark inside.
Yep.
Because you know, the bigger the container, the more media you have, which means the more water it holds, and then it becomes really difficult in figuring out how you want to water them. If they stay too wet, your plant will just rot away. So the bigger the pot is, the more of the peanuts I put in and the more drainage, so that the water really runs out fast. That's a really important thing when you do this with bigger pots. So we do have the big bark that Tom already showed you. You can buy that beautifully right now, because I did not buy, like Tom said last time, all the bags.
He bought every last bag.
I was very generous
last
and
time.
kept 2 pallets there for everybody, so you can go to Home Depot and buy your bag there at any time now. Thank you, Tom.
Comes in a yellow bag called Forest Bark.
Exactly. So there's plenty available for anybody. Go to Home Depot. They're like $11.08, including tax.
It's less than Orchiata by a long shot.
Yeah, it's really nice, big pieces. They come in a variety of sizes. So I usually open a bag when you have time, when I have time, and select out same size pieces and put them in a bucket and let them air out, so that when I'm ready to repot, I have it all ready for me and I can just choose the right size. So this is a pretty big size pieces, and when you open up the bags, there are some pieces that are really thin and some that are thicker. So I would to toss out the thinner pieces into your landscape and keep the ones that are thicker like this one, because they will last you a couple of weeks. If you have pieces like this that are really thin, voila, they look pretty, but this is not the best to use in your media. This will decompose really fast. So use the bigger pieces, thicker ones. line up your pot. I usually make a short layer. Just like that. You make one layer of the big bark on top of the packing peanuts. Take your plant, position it with the back bulbs towards the side of the container. And then as I'm looking, I'm trying to see if I have the right height. I can go a little bit deeper here. So I got to stretch out the roots a little bit to the side. Like so, yes, that looks pretty good. You see now the rim has the new rows kind of like on the rim of the container. So literally what I did, I was pushing the roots a little bit to the side so that it's not too high. I'm going to hold the plant, my bark a little bit closer.
Tom and Matthias, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There are several questions in the chat about some of the things that you were talking about, Matthias. Somebody wants to know 70 or 90% alcohol. And can the plant be split at this stage?
You can use the 70 or the 90. The 90 is really hard to get these days. So they always have the 70 available, which is good enough.
Okay, somebody else asked, are foam peanuts recommended for net pots?
I wouldn't.
You don't really need them. I don't know that it would necessarily hurt, but I'm going to show you how I do net pots. It's very, very simple. And I don't think that styro would hurt, but it's not even really necessary in a net pot. It's really important for these bigger plastic pots because they really can get extremely moist inside, and you have no way of knowing how moist.
Somebody else wanted to know, what about sphagnum moss as a medium? And somebody else wanted to know, what is the diameter of the bulb pot?
Well, there's different diameters. I think this one was the 8-inch, and the one I'm using, the 12-inch. And the other question that you asked, if it can be divided, it could have definitely been divided. When you do that with Cattleyas, you always want to make sure to have at least 3 bulbs basically available. So that would have meant 1, 2, 3. I could have cut it there, and the other one, the other side had 1 new growth, which doesn't really count. So you want to take the other 3 older bulbs, and I could have cut it here and made 2 front leaf divisions, and then I still have 4 leaves, excuse me, in the back, which would have made another back bulb division. So I could have made 3 plants out of this if I wanted to.
Toward the end of this presentation, we have a big specimen plant that we're going to divide. So maybe that question will be answered a little bit better then.
So I want to point out when I
I just also wanted to mention about sphagnum moss.
Oh yes.
Sphagnum moss is really expensive on this island, and personally, I found that it's just way too moisture retentive for growing in Hilo. It's really hard to get it to dry out, and once it does dry out, it's impossible to get it wet again. It's for me, I used to use it all the time in Washington, but I've really shied away from it now. Sometimes I will use it like if I'm preparing a mounted plant, just as a little bit of a, just for something to maintain some moisture on the bark or the tree fern that I'm putting the plant on. But as a potting medium, I really don't think it's appropriate for growing in East Hawaii.
Yeah, so the moss thing is also, as I mentioned before, it really depends if you are a person who likes to water or not to water. So if you're a person who doesn't like to water, the moss might come in handy because it stays wetter longer and you don't have to water as much. The only, excuse me, the only time I use moss is in my little, I have a small bulbophyllum collection. And so they need very shallow pots with a lot of drainage, but they don't want to be completely dry. So I mix in slightly a little bit of moss into the mix with the bulbophyllums, and it works really good. Yeah, this, for example, is one of my bulbophyllums. That's the medusae. I don't know if you can see that. I use also the bigger bark, but there is moss mixed in right there. So it really depends on the genera you're using. For Cattleyas, I really stay away from the moss because it stays too wet. You know, this is really something to see, by the way, because medusae only bloom 3-4 days. What is it, 3-4 days? Kind of. Actually, really, they only look good the first day and the second, and then yeah, go over really fast. So this is bulbophyllum medusae. Looks really cool, especially when you have a bigger plant with lots of spikes. He's handing me another one, so I'm just going to show it real fast. There's another bulbophyllum that I got from Ken 3 years at the last orchid show. Was that 3 years ago already? I think so, 2 or 3 years ago. And this is one that is blooming really nice. Also in the shallow pots with a lot of peanuts at the bottom, and the mix is the big bark with moss inside, as you can see, strings of it, and a little bit of perlite. It works really well on that. Okay, back to this plant really fast. I don't want to spend too much time on that. The only thing I want to mention, when you use this big bark for the bigger Cattleyas, I'm so careful with the point of how long does it stay wet. So I learned, as I've been using this bark for a while, if you use the bark horizontally like this, it will stay much wetter because there's a bigger surface pointing downwards where it will stay wet. So try to use it upwards so that the water can actually run down and doesn't collect on a bigger surface. So when you add it to your pot, try to stick them this way and not that way. That really helps with your watering in the long run. So you don't want to put them flat and you want to put them upright. And that helps you also stabilizing the plant because you can wedge them in that way so much easier. So you always make sure that they're upright. Probably some people will laugh about that I'm doing that and spending time making a puzzle out of this, but it really at the end comes in super healthy plant as an outcome. And I mean, that's the goal, what we're trying to do. We want to grow beautiful plants with lots of flowers.
And wedging all of the spark in there assists the plant in staying stable in the pot. As we said earlier, it can't wobble. If you want it to root well, it has to be really stuck on there, just like they are in nature on the trees, blasting the trees.
With the bigger plants, you can be, I don't want to say brutal because we don't want to be brutal to them, but you can push a little bit harder on them so that the pieces actually go down into the pot more. So now you see the plant is super stable. We killed it a little bit and you can see there's a lot of room in between each piece of the bark, which is very advantageous for the Cattleyas. They love the air spaces in between. Looks like it's settled in pretty good. So the last thing I do, and you can always just leave it like this if you are in an area where it, over a period of 4 or 5 months is much cooler. If you're in a warmer area like Hilo, you may want to take a couple of handfuls of the smaller bark and just sprinkle it on the top to fill in just the surface area slightly. And I do that pretty much on all of my plants here, so that it stays a little bit wetter at the top. So at the end, it will look just like voila, just like that. See, most of the rhizomes are just about covered with the media, but the new stuff is nicely exposed, so it gets a lot of airflow. Super stable in the pot. Last thing, of course, don't forget your tags.
Oh no, we almost did.
No, I will never forget the tags. Otherwise, I'm worthless. There you go. Looks nice and healthy.
Matthias. I feel so much better.
And this is my first princess in a big pot. Wow. And there we go. Hand this over to Tom, and now Tom is going to go wild.
No, do the Vanda, and then me.
He is a slave driver. I knew it. I knew it, and he is. Wait,
So I wanted to do a Vanda because, oh, yep, you got to get rid of that. Those are your rules.
old stuff in the bin. Do we need the torch? Yes, we do. Well, nice, and it just turned red, and then
Yeah.
that's definitely super clean now.
So
Make sure you don't touch it.
I wanted him to do one of his Vandas because Vandas and Phalaenopsis are what we call monopodial orchids, which means basically 1 foot. That's what the word monopodial means. Whereas the Cattleyas are what we call sympodial or sympathetic feet. And so the rhizome of a Cattleya travels across the surface of the pot. Okay, and so that's why you put the back bulb right up against the wall of the pot and have the newest growth where the rhizome is going to continue into the future with all the space to establish over the next 2 years. So when you plant a Cattleya, you have to make room for that new growth. But on the Vanda, it's all central. Sometimes a Vanda will clump up, but for the most part, it continues to grow upright. And so you don't need to push it against the edge of the pot when you repot. You want it to be centered in the pot. So that's a big main difference. So take it away.
Here we have a Vanda. As you may have noticed, most Vandas you buy are usually in hanging baskets, and a lot of growers doing that. And feedback from my customers, well, what am I going to do with the hanging pots? So I was contemplating, am I going to grow Vandas in hanging baskets? And I decided against it. So I started potting these up in 5-inch pots, and it worked out just great. The roots are still coming out like this, but it's so much easier to sell them like this because people are easier. Help me with my words. It's easier to
handle. You can keep it on your windowsill.
Yep.
Instead of having to hang it somewhere or in a nice cash bowl.
You have a pot and you can set it in and don't need to worry about a hanger sticking out. So I've been really lucky that it worked out well, and I didn't have anybody perish on me in the pots because obviously it stays wetter in there. I put a lot of drainage and peanuts in there, and they're growing great. They're looking good.
I will also point out, those of you that get the AOS magazine, there's a supplement on Vandaceous orchids that just came with the latest issue. And there's a story in there about a new trend that seems to be working very well called Vandas in vases.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
And it actually really works. So these are bare root Vandas that are literally sitting in water. And then you pour the water off, but the vase, the glass vase itself keeps the roots nice and humid, and it's a beautiful presentation. But you need to go look at the AOS supplement to find out about it. I'm sorry, Matthias. Wow, look at all of those peanuts.
He was just saying, look at the beautiful presentation. I mean, look at how healthy the roots are. It couldn't be any better by any stretch. I mean, this is as healthy as it can be. Mm-hmm. And you see, it does have media in there, but I did it by layers. I put 1 layer of peanuts, 1 layer of bark, 1 layer of peanuts, and then I top dressed it with more bark, and it worked great.
It's Vanda lasagna.
It's Vandalicious, yes. Okay, we're again taking the old bark off. Beautiful roots. He's a happy camper. Comes off really easy. Look at that. So even if you, for example, if you bought a Vanda from me and you don't want to keep it in a pot, take off all the media, clean it like this, and then you can just mount it to a palm tree or here tree, whatever tree you have, with a lot of sunshine, because Vandas do like sunshine. And use don't use any string and wire. Please don't do that. It really hurts the plant. Go to Walmart and buy some pantyhose. They're really cheap there. Cut them into string like this, and then you can wrap it around the tree with the pantyhose as a string. You don't need any media to do so. You can just push the roots against the tree, wrap it around so that all the roots have contact with the bark of the host tree. And you want definitely the beginning of the plant right here, the base, you want that against the tree, and then slightly leaning it away from the palm tree. You don't want it to lean against the palm tree so that all this is right against it. That does not work for the Vandas plant. They need a little airflow there. But the roots need to be completely flush with the host tree. All right, we want to put this in a bigger tree. We're running out of time. Why not? Use the 8-inch. Fill in a little bit with the peanuts.
You want the kind with the holes?
No, I think that's too big. I think this size is pretty good for right now.
Okay.
You see it settles in nicely into the 8-inch. I think the 12-inch would be really big. Take some of the bigger pieces. Do the same thing. This one has a lot of roots, so you want to make sure that you don't kill them with the new bark. Fill this in. And the Vandas can be literally super light. I mean, they don't really need a lot of media, but you want to make sure that it's stable in the pot so that it's not flopping around in the pot. That is definitely important. And fill it in. Make sure it's standing up straight. Just like that. Looking pretty good. One more over here. And there you go. Pretty stable. Put the tag in and you're done. I'm not going to put any more peanuts in this because it's very airy already. And I'm definitely not going to put the number 7 bark on top because that will be not good for a big pot like this. It will stay way too wet. And then once it's settled in, eventually it's going to look like that. So you see it has, this is a bigger one, obviously. See, the same way with the big bark, the roots, some of them are coming out on the sides, and some of them are going around the pot, but they love these, the big bark and being in a pot, so they don't necessarily always need to be in a hanger. And this one literally blooms every 3 months for me, even here in Mountain View. So it definitely can be done.
Very nice.
And I just want to show one more quick thing before Tom takes over. As we repotted the other one in the 6-inch pot, I just wanted to show
Matthias, we had a question on the chat line. How often do you water your potted Vandas?
Every 2 days. Yep, they dry out really fast. And Vandas are actually, compared to the Cattleya's, they're really heavy feeders. They're constantly growing and making new leaves, where the Cattleya's basically, here in Hawaii, they do it twice a year, but normally if you're on the mainland, it's 1 leaf a year. So very slow growing there. You don't need to fertilize as much, but Vandas are heavy feeders. So I water them every 2 days. I foliar feed, which I do for all my orchids. And I put the slow release fertilizer into the media also, because they need that in order to produce good foliage and bloom well. All right.
Great. If you don't mind, so a couple other questions that the people had submitted. One question was, do you cook the bark or use it straight from the bag?
I don't cook the bark now. It's already being treated, so you don't really need to do that. You can soak it in water if you feel like it's powder dry and get all the dust out. But I don't think you need to cook it.
Some people do like to soak their bark before a potting session, but personally, I'm such a heavy waterer and Hilo is so moist in general. You don't even really need to do that here. Bark tends to stay pretty wet. here.
Yeah, and I think when you're repotting, especially when you cut a lot of roots off, and if the media is already from the beginning really wet from the soaking, and the roots are not really active growing at that time, so they can only take so much water at that time, not an actively taking the water out of the media. So the media, if it's too wet from the beginning, your repotting will fail because the plant is going to stay too wet. So I rather use, when I'm repotting mature plants, dry bark, so that in the beginning it stays drier. And then as the roots starting to grow through the watering, then the bark will become wet enough for the plant to take enough nutrients out of it.
Keep in mind that when roots are growing, they're searching for water. So if they're constantly wet at the surface, the roots are not going to grow.
Yep.
You want those roots to enter your bark. So even though most of the books tell you to soak your bark in advance, here in Hawaii, it's really not necessary.
Yeah,
Okay, and
I
two
wanted to,
two
go
more
ahead.
quick questions. So
Yeah.
about sources. So someone asked Tom, who did you say carries the bulb pots, Tom?
The well, the
Garden Exchange.
Garden Exchange has, but you're asking, are you asking about the net pots or the bulb pans?
The bulb pots, the bulb pans.
Bulb pans, yeah, you can get them from Garden Exchange.
Okay, and Matthias, there's a question, where do you get your tags?
The big tags.
Yeah, these you can also get at Garden Exchange, I assume. And if not, you have to go online and put in, what are they called? Farm stays, I think they're called. Yeah. And then you just have to, I mean, I go obviously to nursery things here in Hilo, and he has the boxes for me. But I'm pretty sure Garden Exchange has them. They should.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If indeed a lot of people want those bulb pans, we can get them by the case from Nursery Things and then distribute them to our members as a member benefit. But we'd need to do a big group order because they come like, I don't know, 500 to a case or something.
Yeah, I think the 8-inch ones you have to buy, there's 400 in a case, and then the 12-inch ones are 300 in a case. So, and they're definitely not cheap. I mean, even for us, it's a big expense in between. But I use them, so it's expensive. We need to do it.
Yep.
Anyways, just wanted to show before Tom takes over. This is a Cattleya I repotted from a 4-inch into a 6-inch about 8 weeks ago. Two things I want to point out. If you look closer, you can see at the bottom the 2 new growth are emerging. So it was definitely a success repotting this one. You can also see that the roots have extended into the media, completely secure. The only thing that happened is, as you can see right here, the tips of the 2 new leaves have turned brown. And that's because when I repotted it, we had a phase of really hot weather and the plant didn't have enough roots. So instead, the plant usually distributes the water to all parts of the plant. The tip of the leaf of Cattleya is basically the last area where the water has to go. So the plant has to decide, am I supporting the tip of the leaf, or am I supporting, after the brutal attack of repotting, putting the energy into new growth and new roots? So the plant decided, I'm going to put the energy into making new roots and a new growth, and then has aborted the tip of the leaf a little bit. And so that's the reason why it has turned brown. It's nothing to be really worried about, because you see it was a success as the new growth is coming here. But this is, again, one of those things, as I mentioned in the beginning, you have to listen to your plant. So obviously, I repotted this plant at a time that was not beneficial to that plant. I should have listened to the weather and waited maybe a little bit longer. But as you know, this weather here can change in an instant, and not an excuse, but it is, you always have to listen to your surroundings and listen to your plants.
And Matthias is also running a very successful business, and he has to stay, a lot of times his consideration is about, he does things when he has the time to do it. And so he's planting literally every day, except this week, when he's had too many other distractions between
I'm
the
gonna
sale
get
that's coming up and doing some renovations at his house.
I'm gonna make this ready for you.
Thank you.
All right. And then Thomas is gonna take over. Have fun.
So let's have a big round of applause
Hey.
for Matthias. He's going to be back to divide a plant, but I'm going to take over for a little while and hopefully won't steer you guys all in the wrong direction. I have taken to growing most of my plants in baskets now. I had a kind of a bad experience. All of my little plants were in these trays. Many of them even were in baskets, but because they were sitting in trays, they really never drained properly. So I lost a lot of really great things, and instead I've taken to growing almost everything, at least all my epiphytes, in basket situations. Now, I just want to show you how quickly things can go well. So many of you remember Claude Hamilton spoke to us about Broutonias, and he visited over the summer, and I got some bare root plants from him. This is a really lovely species. This is Broutonia orchiziana, and all of the plants that he had were bare root. And so I literally just stuck this plant in some of the very large bark in a net pot, and you can see that it's rooted really well onto these bark pieces and is still continuing to make roots, and it even decided to bloom out of season actually for this species, but I'm so delighted with it. And this is what plants will do when when grown in such a way that they have a lot of air around the roots. I know for a fact that if I planted this in really fine bark and watered it every day, that it would just die. And right now I have beautiful turgid leaves and a really nice inflorescence on this really terrific plant that's establishing perfectly for me. So so that's one reason why I grow now in baskets. It's not just Cattleya alliance stuff. Here I have a Phalaenopsis cornucervi. It's called cornucervi, means like the deer horn or the horn of the deer, and I love this species in particular. Everyone should grow this. It's very easy, and it's literally always blooming. It always will have flowers on it. These inflorescences, you never cut them. Anyway, I got this plant over the summer as well, and planted it the same way in the large bark in a net pot, and all of its aerial roots have grown right into the new bark perfectly well, and they're surrounding the plant on the outside of the pot as well. I think it's a lovely presentation. I've seen these over time where they can have 20 inflorescences and flowers on the tips of every one. So this is a really great species that loves basket culture. I think in general you can do Phalaenopsis in baskets without really any difficulty at all. So what I thought I'd do is show you how I do a basket, and I'm going to start with this crazy plant over here that probably no one but me would grow this. There's a plant called, there's a plant called Appendicula, and it's a species, but you can see that it has keikis on it. Many of your plants, particularly things like dendrobiums, will often have keikis on them, little adventitious growths. So before I get into messing too much with this plant, Matthias has reminded me that I need to suit up because we're gonna have like a little operation here. And I don't want to, you know, if I'm like cutting into a plant or having some kind of, I don't want to spread any virus that might be in the juices of those plants. So
Your hands are too hairy. They don't fit.
yep. If the glove fits, you must acquit. Okay, I don't know if anyone remembers that from the OJ case. So, so what I'm going to do, this growth here, as you can see, is got its own set of roots already. If you look at the plant, there's roots like that on many of the growths, but this one is the obvious one to do. So I can probably just snap it off. I don't need a scissor really.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Sorry. Somebody was asking if you sterilize your net pots.
Well, I use new net pots. I mean, if you're going to reuse a plastic pot, you should always sterilize it. But generally speaking, you should just discard your plastics. I know that, or recycle them.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy for them to have issues. So now, here I have a really tiny net pot. We have a very small root system on this, but it is there. And so what I tend to do with these, I'm selecting some of the smaller pieces of this giant bark, okay? And just like Matthias was saying, you want to arrange these in the net pot in such a way that it drains. Okay, you don't really need the styrofoam peanut at the bottom, but I like to wedge my plant up against the bark, and then let the plant grow in what's more or less a crevice. This is actually kind of a new thing. There's something called crevice gardening that all kinds of plants that are often really difficult turn out to grow really well in crevices. So I just stuff all of this in the net pot. And I might be crushing the roots just a little bit, but it's, again, really important that the plant not wobble. And you can see that it is really in there very, very well. Wow. That is all I need to do for these species orchids.
Wow.
And they take really, really well. You need to water plants like this almost every day, or like the way Matthias is watering his vandas, because they do
Dry out.
They will dry out in this kind of bark, but that's exactly what they need. That white coating on roots is something called velamin. And velamin is extremely soluble with water. When you water your vandas, you might notice that the roots turn green. The white color, the white outer color, which is like the epidermis of our skin, is basically it's extremely soluble with water. So if, you know, again, if you keep it constantly wet, the velamin will dissolve, and then your plant is unprotected. It'd be like us shearing off our skin; we would bleed. So, so it's very important that velamin dry out every day, and that's why here in Hilo right now it's raining like crazy here at Matthias's farm. It's humid enough right now for this plant. So I have this beautiful.
You want to show that on the Walkeriana with the roots that you?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go there.
One of Matthias's lovely plantings here. He has this log where he's planted Cattleya walkerianas on it. Actually, this is all the same clone. of Cattleya walkeriana. And if you look at this mount, the roots are again all out in the air, all out in the open, and just encrusting this beautiful log that he's planted them on. It's kind of at the end of its blooming, but there's still quite a few flowers, and it was really quite a show a couple of weeks ago when it was just there. You know, the flowers were just beautifully spaced all around the mount. So
There's the velamen.
yeah, you can see the velamen on the white roots, the white outer coating, and again you can also see the green root tips, the new developing root tips. So when your plant is in active growth, you will have those green root tips. And so that's basically all I do for baskets. Now, again, plants really do want to be in the air. Now, we showed you the Bulbophyllum medusae. This is a close relative of it. This is Bulbophyllum vaginatum. I got this plant from Karen at one of her pop-up sales a couple years ago. It blooms 2 or 3 times a year, and it's really happy, but you can see that it's grown out of its basket. It's trailing all over the place. I love that effect, but it's also and it's also very easy to take cuttings of a plant like Bulbophyllum, and then you can take them and make little plants to give to your friends. So I'm going to just cut off a couple of pieces of this Bulbophyllum. I'm just going to cut right into the rhizome.
Is there something else in there?
Yeah, there's another plant in there. I often combine plants. It's not an orchid though, the other plant. So here's a really nice division of the Bulbophyllum vaginatum. I'm going to take another one.
Can you lay this so that I can?
Sure, hang on.
He is chopping away.
Yeah, so this is the plant. And now one thing that's really interesting, you know, here's your newest growth here coming out. And most people, you know, want the newest growth to be up when they plant it. In this particular case, it's not a good idea because this plant was growing pendantly. And it's really important, you see that the top of the leaves be oriented towards the light. If I planted it this way, the leaves are upside down and it can easily burn that way. So when I mount this plant, I'm going to mount it pendantly, and then it can grow whatever direction it wants to. But so what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab one of the larger pieces of bark. Hang on.
Oh, here, this is a large bark right there. Oh, there, that small bark, that one. Yep. Well, I have all the bark assorted in my nursery in different buckets by size. So I just had to point him where the biggest pieces are.
So Matthias actually drills holes in this bark and makes beautiful mounts out of this. And you can run a wire through it and hang it on your wall. We're not going to go that far today, but I just wanted to show. Now, I can put a little bit of sphagnum moss on this, but I really don't need to, okay? So I'm just pressing this plant into the bark itself, and I'm going to use some pieces of the nylon stocking that Matthias got tired of wearing nylons. So, but the nylon is really good for mounting your plants because it's really nice and soft.
Sorry, that was my fingers.
I can only imagine what he was doing with his fingers there. He gets angry with me sometimes. That's the cross to bear with friendship with a mad German. So I'm just wrapping the nylon around the plant so
I'm just
that,
going to come closer so they can see that better. Okay, you don't have to. I'll come closer.
okay. I'm wrapping the nylon around the plant so that the plant is really on there very tightly, and even some of it is falling off. But you can also get
So
it
the good
close
thing
together.
with the nylon stocking is really, it's actually made for women. So it's not hurtful, obviously. So if you would do the same thing with a wire or something, you would break the rhizomes and all the roots. But because he's using the nylon stocking, it will not hurt the plant even if you pull it tight. That's the positive thing about this string.
So then, when I have it nice and tightly on, I take the two ends, if I can find the other end, and tie them together. This is actually harder to do with the gloves than I was expecting. But yeah, just tie a knot there, nice and tight. Oh, came out already.
Here.
And then your plant is very securely on the mount. You can even take this top part off. Maybe it's just a little too much. But and usually cut away what's left of the strings that you might be using.
And you need.
I got it.
Okay.
And then you have a very nice mount that's going to be ready to be, these are blooming size already for this particular bulbophyllum. So you can make these for your friends if you've got a big bulbophyllum plant. It's just super easy and fun. And it's one of the best ways to spread species around to people, particularly if you have nice specimen plants. So bulbophyllum vaginatum.
And then just write a tag when you're finished and stick it into the mount behind the plant so that you know what it is.
Exactly.
Yep.
Let's see. I have
He's speechless. That doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have here some little plants of a brassia. This is one of those brassias that it gets orange flowers. A plant that we used to know as Ada aurantiaca, which is a cold growing thing from Ecuador. But when you breed it with regular warm brassias, you get nice spidery flowers that are brilliant orange. So that's what these are. And this was just a bunch of seedlings that were all together. And again, I prefer to grow something like this in a net pot. And so what I will do, these have a little bit more root system. But again, I will put the back bulb, which in this case for these seedlings is the smallest bulb. A lot of times back bulbs are larger, but so I'm placing it here in the net pot so that that back bulb is all the way against the rim, and that the new growth, which is here, and the new roots that are coming out will have all the room in this net pot. And again, I believe that these plants really love the crevices, just like you saw with the Atlea walkeriana. All the roots of that plant are going into the crevices. So again, I'm arranging all of this bark in such a way that that I'm creating crevices for this plant to grow into. And lots of air for these roots to develop. Something like this, I could conceivably put a little bit of moss in with it. But again, it's really not necessary, not in Hilo. At least that's what I found. So,
And you can really see the passion in Tom's eyes, how he loves this way of potting these up in these netting pots with the big park. He's totally into it.
I'm into it because it works for me.
That's right.
And you know, I'm into orchids in general, but again, I can hold the plant and it's immobile. It's not coming out of there. It's wedged in place. And that's how you get good, stable plants that grow really easily. So I have two other things I want to show you while I have the floor. Here, one is a show and tell plant that I don't think anyone here has seen.
That is something really exceptionally. Everybody really look at it and pay attention. You won't see that again anytime soon.
So this is growing on a mount. It's completely pendant, and it has these wonderful, very nicely fragrant little white flowers. It's already closing up. The flowers only last a day, but they produce them in succession. And I actually had no idea there were this many. I saw one inflorescence on this like 2 days ago. And then all of a sudden today, when I was packing up to come over to Matthias's farm, that looked like there were 15 inflorescences on the plant. So it's this is a plant that's known as it's in the family of Vandas. It's a Thrixspermum. Thrixspermum is known for having one-day flowers in general. Many of you have Thrixspermum centipeda, which again, the flowers really don't last very long. But I just love the habit of this, the way it hangs, and these amazing, wonderfully fragrant flowers that pop out on it. So this is also mounted on tree fern. You can see it's got very filamentous roots. So sometimes tree fern is better than bark for certain kinds of plants that have very fine root systems like this one does.
Thank you for sharing that, Tom. That's an exceptionally beautiful rare plant.
Yeah, I had never seen it before, so I was excited to get it. And the other thing I'm going to do, I'm very nervous about because I really don't know what's going to happen. So we had a wonderful talk from Sarah Hurdell about habanerias. And many of you saw the beautiful habaneria plants that I got actually from H&R Nursery. And so you can see they're going dormant now. And so I just wanted to see if I've got a whole bunch of rhizomes in here, or even more than one rhizome in here. So let's just see what I get.
Let's find out.
I'm so excited. You can see I used a net pot again, and a very granular soil-like mix. It's actually pro-mix mixed with cinders. And so I'm just going to dump it all out here and sieve through it. So far, nothing. I feel rhizomes. Now it looks like here's an old, like the original rhizome. You can see it's disintegrated, the old one, but there's new rhizomes in here. And they're a little curled up. They're not as nice as the ones Sarah showed us. But yes, there's like 2, 3, maybe 4 rhizomes in here. So for once, I didn't kill one of these things. I'm so excited.
Is that the old one or no?
No, this is the new. It's nice and turgid.
Wow.
There's more than one in here. This one even seems to have like a new growth, but we're not going to repot these at this point. These need to sleep for a few months. So I'm so happy and excited. There's three more of them here as well. So I got a really nice array of these rhizomes. And even more are starting to grow. Maybe I'll keep this one in a pot a little while longer, and let it continue. Yeah, more new rhizomes are still forming on
Beautiful.
the sky. So
Yay.
I'm very, very pleased with that. Those are all going to go in a Ziploc bag. And I'm also going to sift through.
So you started with one and now you have how many
Now I have like 5 rhizomes in there
in 1 year?
in 1 year.
Wow.
So you should always go through your mix just in case there's some little rhizomes in there. Not seeing anything right now, but good news. All right, so I'm gonna toss all of this stuff. And the last thing on our agenda is dividing a big giant specimen.
Do we
And
have enough time?
I don't know, do we have enough time or have we gone over?
It's 4 o'clock.
Oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. What do you say, folks? Should we or should we do that another day? Crickets.
Yes, do a big one, please.
Okay. All right, we'll try to keep it brief. But this is Matthias.
I gotta mount this back up. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, I can hold it.
You two are very entertaining and knowledgeable.
You should see behind the scenes.
Oh my God. Come to. Jesus, please. This man can drive you crazy.
I try, but I fail. He is crazy, but he was crazy before I met him.
I mean, just gotta make room because
Because of all the mess I've made.
you know, that too. Here's your pieces from the. All right. Now I gotta clean up the mess that Mr. Know-it-all did here. Because the plant that we are going to divide is actually one of my favorite plants in my collection, which is my own seedling, Hisako Song. It's a cross I made. God, when did I make that? 2012 maybe. And this is the
He's
one
not
of one
too
of my-
senile to remember 10 years ago.
Oh, so this is one of my seedlings that I put in these big 12-inch bullpens. As you can see, the roots have gone through the pot. They're sticking on the outside of the pot. There's one that has grown over the edge. It just finished flowering about maybe 2 weeks ago. So you see there's a lot of spikes that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spikes this year. And then there's one from last year. So this is definitely due to repot. This was actually the first one that I ever showed for judging, and I got an AM of, I can read it, 84 points. Not bad for a plant from my house. All right, we'll take it apart. And as kind as Tom, of course, is he didn't prepare the clippers for me, although I did it for him. But there you
I
can
only
see
used one.
how much he loves me.
I only used one.
Uh-huh. Can you make sure that I'm focused? So I definitely want to make sure that my clippers are super clean. So I really heated them up so that there's 1000% nothing on the clipper that can contaminate my awarded plant. First thing I do, cut off all the old spikes because it's unsightly and hiding ground for bugs. So you want to do that. Another spike bites the dust. Another one. Boy, that clipper is hot. And we're doing another one. One more spike to go. Now, this is going to be a tough one. One is going over the edge. So this side doesn't have too much going on, so I can actually gently lay it on this side and see if it would come out. And of course it wouldn't, because it's really in there. This is the thing with these big pots, and get them out easy. Of course, the first thing that holds it in are the roots. So what I have to do is we got to cut these roots off at the bottom so that the plant will even come out. But it's really holding it in. So as good as these drainage holes are for repotting, of course, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge because you have all these roots that have grown out at the bottom, and you're going to have a hard time trying to get these the plant out because the roots are holding it in. So you got to cut it free. If there's anything on the side, doesn't look like it. Let's see if I can wrestle this baby. It's coming now. I'm almost finished. See, it's still in there.
Can't you just bang the pot?
Yes, I could, but I wanted to see if I can gently open up the
I mean,
sides
from
that you-
the outside, kind of hit it with your hand a little bit.
that does. Oh, it's so tight in there. So many roots. I have done a few of these before.
How about a hacksaw for the plastic?
So I'm usually, well, the pot obviously is breaking anyways. I can hear it. Which means we might as well just get rid of the pot. It's already
That's what I
broken.
meant.
There we go. Boy, look at those roots. Somebody is happy. It's a complete root ball all around. Now that is a big plant.
Might be
All right. So we have a lot of new leads on this thing. And the surgeon is ready.
I was going to hold the camera, but
That's all right. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. So first thing I do, try to remove as much media before I make a decision where to cut. I'm gonna have to, unfortunately, kill most of the roots because we gotta get it free. So you kind of gotta stab it like it's Halloween and your last one you're attending, and just go for it. Get the media off.
orchids are such delicate things.
The bigger the plants are, the more brutal you have to be.
Matthias, somebody asked in chat, would you soak that first before trying to remove it from the pot? Would that make it easier?
Got watered about 3 hours ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can see the media is really dark. It's wet.
It really does make a difference, though.
Yep.
Definitely have your plant moist when you're doing this sort of thing.
But you see I'm making progress. Media is coming off. I can't believe you guys really make me do this on a Saturday afternoon, making me work.
What else did you have to do today?
Well, you know, it's called I'm having a life also, I thought.
Well, we've got a lot of stuff going on this week. Matthias is going to be helping tomorrow at the Long Life sale. So as will I. So this is a big weekend for us. We're doing a lot.
Yes, we do. Well, I'm making progress. Almost there.
He's practicing for being an ex-murderer.
Yep. After watching all these shows on TV, I learned something, how to dismember an orchid. And definitely not on the Oprah show. All right, we did a lot of destruction, cut all these roots off. still media on the other side. I hope this plant is going to forgive me at the end, but she's going to be happy. New media, new life. Happy life. A little bit more of the stabbing. You're almost there. Look at all those roots and the media.
You need one of those Jason masks while you're doing this.
Yes, that would be nice. A last cut. All the dead roots here that I definitely mutilated. All right, so now we're getting somewhere. So first thing I usually do, cut it right in the middle to see what we're having.
Cutting right through the rhizome.
Oh,
And now things are going to start coming apart.
there. And then you lean in a little bit, and there's the first big piece we have. All right. So that one here I have to clean up a little bit. Get all the dead ones off. That's a nice chunk.
That's a beautiful division.
Yes, and it has 2, 3 leads here. So that's a nice new lead. So this side, I usually, this is obviously where the new lead is. So you want to keep those roots intact. That will help the regeneration of this part a lot. Give it a little bit more of a cut here. And there's division number 1. There's the few pieces that kind of didn't make the cut. Now we got the big piece. We got to make a decision of how we are going to play that.
Well, maybe you don't divide that. Maybe you let that one stay your bigger specimen.
Much old media there. I don't like that idea.
Okay.
Because this one really should have been repotted a while ago and I didn't do it. It's a really good grower, thank goodness. So it didn't take it badly to not being divided. Where other plants, if you miss them for a couple of years too long, they can go really downhill. This one really didn't do that. But I think I want to divide it a little bit more because I can make more plants and regrow.
And he can,
big ones.
and he can give one to me.
Well, you know, as we all know, you're a little bit delusional, so that ain't happened with this plant.
Oh man, that hurt.
You do have a pie for later. Didn't you?
Ouch. Yes.
Well, maybe I will reconsider.
Okay. Someone gave me a bunch of avocados and they were all going, they all ripened at once. So I made an avocado coconut lilikoi cheesecake pie. And it's so delicious. I bet you all wish you were here to have a piece.
All right, so I'm getting this a little bit more situated here. I want to cut this up into pieces. I have one big piece there. I just need to find the that section goes this way. Okay, so I can cut that one off. So you can see, I don't know if you, there's a bunch going this way and the other two going that way. So I want to take this division off as a front lead. So I'm going to have to cut this off right there. Push it to the side. A little bit into the root system, unfortunately. But there we go. Yay. That's a nice piece. And let's That's a nice piece.
Beautiful division.
It has really 2 leads on it. Needs a little bit of cleanup. But look at that nice fat bulb. Good one.
Fantastic.
But there's way too much old media on it that really needs to come off and be replanted.
Okay, we're just demoing, so
Yes.
people are seeing
There's another new
how
growth.
you do it and what you've done.
So there's a smaller one. And then we have, this only has 2. But it can't be done. I can cut this off right there. Put it here, and we're making progress. I'm trying to hurry up, guys, but
Because we're ready for our pie over here.
there. Another beautiful front division, 2 leads. Can actually make 2 out of this even, but I'm leaving this together for now. So this was all together, but you see I have 2 gorgeous front leads with new growth coming. So I have another division. And then we still have the centerpiece here. And I'm thinking, 1, 2, 3. Where is it going? Where is it coming from? It's already coming up anyways. All right. So it's already, yeah,
It's already detached, so might as well make 2 plants
So
out of it.
this is a small division then. It's a still very healthy, big fat bulb kind of division. So that
With
goes
a
in a 4-inch.
Beautiful lead on it.
And because this is a really nice valuable plant, we're even keeping the back stuff, the back old bulbs.
They will resprout.
Yep, they will make plenty of new keikis. You just have to clean it up, whatever got broken. So usually what I do when I have a big plant like this, just hold it right there. I'm just gonna get really close to it. Get a 5-gallon bucket with clean water. What I like to do then with these bigger plants, because obviously it has been in this media for so long and there's a lot of debris on the roots. And you really want to clean them up nicely for the new life that's in front of these plants. So you take it like this in the water, swivel it around a little bit. Look how much cleaner it has become. All the debris is gone. Yep. Yeah, this would be ready to repot now. Now you can see all the roots. It still has to. Thunder, it is coming.
Big storm.
First thunder of the season. Yep, you just have to trim the roots a little bit. But if you look at the other pieces we had, you see the color difference, how dirty this one still is and how clean this one is. It certainly makes a difference. So for these bigger plants, I always recommend doing that to clean up all the old debris. The first plants I showed for repotting, you know, they were so clean in the media, there was no debris or anything. So the longer the plants are in one pot, the more debris, and you really need to clean this off. Your plants will be so thankful. Yep, see now the roots are becoming
Much better.
much better. They're still clinging a little bit of old media on it, but it comes off. Yeah, this will be good enough. You can also use a toothbrush to get all the algae off the bulbs if you want to make them super clean. Doesn't have to be, but it makes them look really good. And as I said, you can watch the plants better when they're really clean, because then you can see what's going on. If they're covered up with algae, you don't know what's really under there. And that's that. So some of these pieces will go, this will go in a 4-inch pot. This will go in a 6-inch. And then we have 5-inch one, 6-inch one, and we got
A big
another
specimen.
a specimen for 12-inch one. So out of this one plant, whole bunch of divisions. There you go.
Well done, Matthias.
Woohoo!
So
Yes, we had a question about washing the plants off. The question is, would you change the water between orchids if you're doing this to more than one orchid? And would you sterilize the pot in between?
Well,
Of course, you're going to change the water in between. I mean, that's a given, because you're going to have all, especially as we brutally stabbed the plant and injured it. So if it's a virus plant, that virus will be floating in the water like crazy. If you, I mean, I know the plant is not virused. So in that case, I don't really necessarily need to sterilize the bucket, but you definitely need to change out the water. And I don't think that the virus will attach itself to the plastic walls so fast. You just need to swivel out the bucket for sure. And if you want to 100% make sure, just have a bigger bucket with a solution of 10% or 20% Clorox with water, and then swivel that in the bucket and you'll be good, because it didn't sit there that long. But that will make sure that there's nothing infectious in there.
any more questions before we depart?
A little bit.
Well,
tricky.
I like to say something. For one thing, on the mainland here, we changed the time, so that's why I'm an hour late.
Oh, well,
And-
I'm sorry.
Yes, well, so what? It happened.
Yes.
But on the label tying, I believe in tying the label in some way to the plant or to a stake that you put with it.
It's a great idea.
And also be sure now that you, and I know you will know it, to write as many labels as it takes and call that division A with a date. So you always know that that piece of plant is from the same plant.
Absolutely. Well,
And
at the Smithsonian, we had every plant had an accession number. So when we made divisions, it would be 2010 115 1105 A or B or C or D, depending on how many divisions we'd make of something.
I want to show really fast this plant.
And-
I'm really proud to have this in my collection, but this is really such a beautiful thing. And it has a gorgeous name on top of that.
and why have you?
Femme
Why are
fatale.
you not using clay pots?
Because here we have already such a humidity. It's really
Pardon?
our humidity is so high here. I mean, you only need the clay pots to keep more moisture around the roots. For a commercial nursery like myself here, this is an impossible thing because we couldn't even ship them.
No,
in clay pots.
you can't ship clay pots.
This
For your
Oh,
collection,
okay,
it might be
chocolate
okay,
shipping.
but not.
Okay.
What a beautiful thing, huh?
beautiful, strong spike. I mean, look how thick the stem is even,
What's the name of the one you just divided, the big massive plant?
That was Hisako song.
Hisako song. There might be a division of that available, Kathy.
Oops.
I'll buy it.
I have to think a little bit. I want to show this one also. That's always a crowd pleaser. That's a mutation from Mahina yahiro. So it doesn't show in the foliage like on other plants. So you have to bloom the plants in order to find the ones that have the mutation. There's a beautiful plant from Mr. Siam in Thailand. This is a Hardy Eye Delight cross. So you can see the Hardy Eye Delight is a big yellow with a flat lip. It has transferred to the cross. This is one of my seedlings that I really enjoy. This is a Toshia Yoki cross with a red one as the father. And this is one of the few where the shape came out pretty decent and a great color. This one I really want to show also really fast. I know we are here for a while. A long time ago, this is one of my first selfings I ever did in this orchid world live. This is a pastoral innocent selfing. And I named this one after my favorite customer from the farmer's market I used to go in Waimea. So this is now pastoral Dorothy Chow. And it's pastoral innocent is a white. and it was used a lot for the cut flower production. So when they bred pastoral innocents, there were a lot of pinks and lavenders in there, but they threw them all out because everybody wanted white corsage flowers and not the pink ones. So they all had been discarded. But when I made the selfing, a few came out lavender and a few came out pink. And this by far, I mean, what a shape and what a lip. It's just the most beautiful thing. That is really a winner, so to say. Yep.
And it's
Yes.
also the time of year for the Cattleya persivaliana. And you can see that he's got several nice clones, each with a different pattern in the lip, and some of them are bigger, wider flowers than others. Here's a really big specimen plant up here. It's got lots of buds still on their way. Really beautiful flowers. A lot of people don't really care for the fragrance, but I don't find anything wrong with it. Look at, this is how Matthias does his specimen plants. And he actually puts them in these trays that have a beautiful drainage in the bottom of the tray. See, it's like a net pot in there. Yeah, but you need to build your biceps, man.
Shut up.
Okay.
Did we show everything?
I
Yes.
think most everything
Good.
we showed. We hope that you will do your.
Oh,
Oh no!
oh no, what happened?
There we go. Okay.
The two stooges there.
Adios, amigos.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank you for coming.
Well,
Aloha.
well,
We have
I'm
show and
sorry, I
tell?
missed.
Oh, show and
So-
tell, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
we're
have-
gonna go and have our pie. We did our show and tell, and I have to get back to Pepe Keo for judging. So see you all later.
Right now he wants to.
What does he want? Oh, the Hisako song.
So we are still on?
Yes, we're still on. So this is Larry. So who else would like to show off some of their orchids?
Well, I
Have
got
a few. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Alice.
I got one here. And I've got to read the name. Isochilus species. So that's all it says. So let's try. The flowers have a, yeah, got to steady that thing. Now you can see the flower. Can you see the flower? It's very small. And it has four growths on, and for my culture now over the decades, I can be happy when I have something. So I'm using sphagnum yet, and I am clamping every plant down. The clay pot has special clamps, and then the plastic, you don't need to see it. So metal clamps to clamp everything down so it stays down. And that's part of it. So
Okay, great. Thank you, Alice. Kathy, did you have something?
I have a couple and they look better outside. I don't know, let's see the focus. Okay. This one's BLC Good News, which I know is a really old cross. I have this hanging on a fence outside. We had to take down our one and only big tree. It's not really showing up very well. Anyway, it's in a net pot. You can see the pot's net. So it gets a lot of air, and I haven't had rain in over a month, so everything's dry. I was just out watering before this. And then this is, I'm trying to see which direction it shows off better. And this is a BLC angel glove, no, SLC angel glove. Can't find the right focus. Is that there better?
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, and
yeah,
it's a net.
Don't hold it too close to the camera.
Okay, and then the last one is this plant should have really not survived because I didn't have anywhere to put it, so it's been sitting on the front porch.
Okay, Kathy, your face is in focus, so bring the plant closer to your face.
Oh, to my face, okay,
Yeah, a little bit more.
okay.
Huh.
I think it's
I'm-
because my
I'm
granddaughter
wondering if-
had me put the blur background on.
I think that's what's going on. If I was going to
Yeah.
ask you if you've got something weird
I
on
don't
your
know how to
screen.
change it now. My granddaughter had me do it.
Ah,
This is LCCG Roebling. It's one of the old blues, but it's been sitting. Let's see.
why don't you
On
put
the
it right
front-
in front of your face?
Okay.
Because your face is in focus.
Okay. Is that better?
That
There we
is
go.
Okay.
a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's been sitting, it gets morning sun, it gets probably 3/4 of a day sun. No protection, just sitting on the concrete steps on the front porch, sort of baking all day. And it threw out 4 big flowers, so I'm just very proud of it that it didn't die on me. Now I have to find a place where it can really live. Oh, and that was from Waldor Orchids. They spoke, I think, 2 or 3 years ago now. The people from, I believe it was New Jersey, somewhere on the East Coast.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to show us?
Yes. Yes, I do. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is Lycaste balani. It's actually a hybrid. Still dripping, so.
Very nice.
And speaking of those bulbophyllums, I got this laxiflorum. Let's give it a spin.
There. Oh, wow. Holy
That's
cow.
amazing.
And I was hoping Caleb was here so he could. I got this from him, this Stanhopea, and I was hoping he would know what it is. I've lost the tag.
Jeff,
Yes.
what is the best way to get a Stanhopea to bloom? I have mine hanging too, but I don't know, maybe my plant is just still too young.
Maybe. Does it have a way to get out the bottom?
Yes, I have it in a slotted pot, you know, a hanging basket with lots of openings, and I made sure to pot it in that kind of a pot when I got it. So
The holes might not be big enough to for the young growth to find a way through.
Yeah.
Because it goes straight down. Only straight down.
Yeah, they do. They only go straight down, and the stem is very thick too. So you need sizable holes for it to squeeze through.
Okay. Then I may need to make some adjustments to my pot or mount it in a different way.
Yeah, or
Maybe I'll
sideways.
just- Yeah. Okay.
Sideways, maybe.
That's probably why it's not blooming.
This Cattleya thing is, I lost the label, but part of the label says super, golden super, I think. And coming back this month again is this Ciswynthia pusilla,
Oh,
still in full glory.
Oh, yeah, that's a lovely
Yes.
one.
This is 2 months now. It's been looking like this.
Wow.
And these aren't the same flowers after 2 months. It's got some green ones coming on pretty soon now too. And have this Maxillaria leuco ochra lucra. Unfortunately, it had some little flies on it, and so I sprayed it with soapy water, and the flowers started wilting. Anyway, still looks nice. Smells nice too. And you can see the other Bulbophyllum laxiflorum out there. That one is grown in more light than this other one. Fine today.
Thanks, Jeff.
Great, very impressive, Jeff. Okay, who else has something they'd like to show us?
I have one.
Yeah, is that you, Ellen?
It sounded like her voice.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I just got this Phalaenopsis. It's called Phalaenopsis Echoes. I like the lip is different from most Phalaenopsis, and that's why I got it. I just liked it.
Thanks, Ellen.
You're welcome.
This is Dana. The flowers are still not open yet, but I'm going to put up a picture of the it's the Amazing Thailand. So this is what it's going to look like when the flowers open up. And of course, I'll post those photos on Facebook, but they're just starting to open up. 2 really big flowers, and they're not anywhere near, showing for prime time yet. And behind me, I just have like a bunch of basic stuff, like phals and dendrobiums. I've got an amazing Andrea, which is, it's a cross between Andrea Neeson and another kind of Calanthes. And I got this at the show in July from Kalapana Tropicals, and now so it bloomed once for me in August, and now it's blooming again. But other than that, I don't have anything real interesting. I think I have a pleurophthalus here, really tiny little flowers. So, but yeah, I think that's probably about it. So Larry, did you say that you were going to be sending everybody the photo contest
Yes, so I'm
list?
I'm going to be sending everybody 2 emails. One of them is about the photo contest, and it will have a link to the gallery of the 11 finalist photos for the contest. And then we're going to ask everyone to vote for their favorite. And then the other email is going to be for the calendar, and where our 2022 Orchid Isle calendar, and we're going to ask people how many calendars they would like to order, so we know how many calendars to get printed up.
And what price did you decide on?
We're going to use the same price as last year, which was still $7, which is quite a bargain.
Yeah, it really is. And were we able to make enough money as a fundraiser at that price?
Yes, I mean, primarily this isn't viewed as a fundraiser. It's viewed as outreach, but if we make some money on it, then so much the better. And yes, we did make some money on it last year.
Okay, cool.
Okay, anyone else have orchids that they would like to show us?
Do you want to show, do you have anything you want to show us? You're muted.
Oh, sorry, not me, but who else has has something they'd like to show? Nobody else?
I guess not.
Okay, so I think that's it for today's, Alice is, did you show us something?
Sperantis, son ovalis. And it grows on my property and is considered rare here for Tennessee and grows wild.
Okay.
So now, and the flowers are very small. I think I showed it before, but that's it, and that's my contribution of the day.
Okay, great, Alice. If you can hold it a little bit farther from the cameras, that's good, so we can see the whole picture. Thank you.
That's a whole picture. And in the books, the pictures aren't any better than this one because of its size. Ovalis.
Okay, folks, so if no one else has anything, then I think we will say that our November.
Did I miss anything at the first hour?
Well, you missed some of the
Repotting.
yeah, some of the repotting demo, but
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Okay, folks, I think that's it for today. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And for our December meeting, we are planning on having, it will be a Zoom meeting, but we are planning on trying to do something to make it festive for the holidays, including having another of our Orchid Jeopardy contests like we did last year. So we hope to see you all next month.
And we're going to install the officers too, right?
And we will have the installation of officers, exactly.
Right, right.
All right. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.